Until that first offer comes in, home sellers can be optimistic but have no absolute foolproof guarantee that an acceptable offer will come in by a certain date. As a result, whether their home is on the market for a day, a week, or a month, buyer response depends on their pricing and the state of the local real estate market, such as if it's a buyer's or seller's market, along with where interest rates are hovering, their home's floor plan, and the like. There are home buyer hats and home sellers hats. That's a real estate idiom for understanding how those on the other side in a negotiation perceive a situation or offer. Whether buying or selling a home, it's helpful to try on the other party's hat and see the transaction from their perspective. For example, if you're a buyer and really want a particular house, if roles were reversed and you became the seller, would you seriously consider an offer lower than what you reasonably could expect to receive? Most buyers and sellers are looking out for their own best interests, so unless there's a good reason for the other party to break from that tradition, understand that for most people, the amount offered, often along with some other potentially important factors, plays a big part in any decision making. Unless they're a friend or relative, one simply can't reasonably expect people to go against what's in their own interest. Balance of power. When multiple buyers express interest in a property by writing offers, the balance of power has shifted substantially in favor of the seller, who's then in a position to either say no to all interested parties who fall short, or simply pit one buyer against another to better the offers. When you think about it, this is not so much different than what we see in an auction situation. A key difference is that with real estate, open bidding is the exception and not the rule. As a result, buyers are in a way bidding blindly without knowing what their competition is doing. This situation is more common when housing inventory is low and or when a seller is highly motivated and has priced their property below what the market might otherwise expect. True to our earlier mentioned military-esque term, multiple buyers interested in the same property can sometimes engender what's called a bidding war. This is when two or more sets of buyers compete for the same property, with the effect of bidding up the price. This is very good for sellers and often quite stressful for buyers. Here's a case study with some insights into the bidding war scenario. We'll call our home buyers Jack and Jill in this true-life multiple buyer story that actually happened. Jack and Jill were seeking a larger home and yard for their growing family with 3 preteen kids and needed to stay within their current school district. Complicating the matter was a good but nevertheless limited budget. In addition, the available inventory of homes that might fit their needs was very low. One day I received a call from Jack saying that he and Jill were ready to try for the house they really wanted. Jack said, "Roy, we think we've decided on the perfect house. We realize it's been listed for a while, so maybe we can bring the seller down on the price." The home Jack and Jill were enthusiastic about indeed had been listed for more than 3 months. In that current seller's market, that house had a market time longer than the average, and while the home was quite nice, the price was near the very top of the market. As a result of all this, it's no wonder Jack and Jill thought they might be able to negotiate the seller down on price. However, further research indicated the seller had made a very recent price reduction. As we'll soon see, this would have the effect of stirring up the market for that property. From the beginning of our home hunt, I'd advised Jack and Jill about possible transaction dynamics between buyers and sellers. As part of this, early in the process, I'd pointed out various offer scenarios to both Jack and Jill. "For now," I said, "if we find something you really like, you needn't rush. But we're in a fast market. So if a second buyer appears, any offer leverage you may hold is likely to decrease significantly and quick. That's because when home sellers have choices, they often use them, and in a multiple buyer scenario, one choice home sellers have is to play one buyer off against another." Enter the second buyer. Right about that time, I received word from the seller's realtor. I was told, "Better do something if your folks want the property, Roy. I understand there's an offer coming in at any time now from another realtor." Good luck.